this computer. All right, welcome everybody to today's class. And like it is written here, caregivers also need to pass Ielts. So it's not just about going to the training and becoming a caregiver and not being able to use it for anything. You also need to pass the Ielts test. We all know what Ielts is. It's an English test that tests your ability to listen to English, speak English, write English, and read English. All right. So there is the listening part, there is the speaking part, there is the writing part, and the reading part. But like I will always say, most of us, we know how to speak English, we know how to read. For you to have gone through Shakti and Sense, you know how to speak English, you know how to read English. You all passed your tests, at least. Majority of you passed your tests, your exams, and all that. So we all know how to speak English, read English, write English. So why do people still fail IELTS? It's because IELTS has a pattern, something I call tricks. And once you know the tricks of the exam, you are likely to pass the exam. So for today, we're going to be focusing on the listening part. So there's listening, speaking, writing, and reading. We're starting with listening, which is the first part of the training. The listening part is the first part of your training. Most people do IELTS in 2 days. So the speaking has a different day. Then listening goes with writing and reading. They do speaking on another day. But some other people will have to do all of them the same day as well, right? I don't know why. Oh, sorry, I need to sort out my slide. It's not moving. Okay, so some other people do it the same day, but it has different sections. Okay, so today we're going to be focusing on the listening part of it. I think my PDF file did not save all, so I'll just quickly save that properly. No. Yep. All right. Gonna be with you shortly. You can't see. Oops. Okay. This is a little issue for me here, but I'm sorting it out. I'm almost with you. Desktop, IELTS listening. I got it. All right, I have it now. So let me share my screen again. Okay. All right, so confirm you can see my screen using the chat box, please, so that we don't get the place all noisy. Confirm you can see my screen, somebody. My screen, can you see it? Somebody please type. Thank you, Mr. Steves. All right, thank you. All right, great. So let's get started. Like I said, we are focusing on the listening part, section A. So the listening modules consist of 4 sections. So first of all, the entire test has 4 sections, but the listening part also has four sections, okay? And in each of the section, you're going to hear a recording. You're going to hear somebody's voice, and your job mainly is to listen to what they are saying and answer the question that follows. So when I say things like this, people will be like, is that all? Listen to what they are saying and answer the question that follows. But as easy as that sounds, a lot of people will still normally fail the listening part, but you guys will not fail it because we're going to break down everything about the listening part of the test tonight. And it's good we're recording so you can keep watching this over and over again. Okay, so it consists of 4 modules, and each of the 4 modules has 10 questions. Under the listening modules, there are 4 sections, and each of the 4 sections has 10 questions. So it means that listening alone has 40 questions. All right. So in section A, please mute yourself. Let's avoid distraction. I'm going to mute everybody again. So if you want to speak, use the chat box to avoid distractions. Thank you. Now, section A is a conversation between two people. You're going to hear a conversation between two people. When I did my Ielts test, it was a conversation from a lady that called the train station and mentioned that she lost her purse while on the train. So they had to ask her what day, what time, where was the train headed to, and there are questions for you to answer. Okay, so it was a conversation between the lady that called the train station and the customer service guy that picked up the call. So yours might not be that, it might be something else, but it's usually a conversation over a phone. So that's section A, and you're to answer the questions after. Then section B is a monologue, a conversation between just one person speaking over the radio, just one person talking, one person speaking in an audio. It could be in a radio conversation, it could be whatever conversation. Is that a conversation? Is one person, is a monologue, right? So it's one person that is speaking and you're to answer the question afterwards. Then section C is a conversation between two people. It is usually on something related to academics, educational context. So there's a discussion, they can be talking about whatever subject, physics, whatever it is, and you're to listen and answer the questions that follow. Then the last one is usually a lecture. One person is speaking to an audience. So you will know that there's an audience because distractions could come. We're going to get into all that. So those distractions are part of the tricks that you need to know. So because a lecturer is speaking, then somebody else is speaking. You're not supposed to listen to what the other person that is distracting is saying. You're to focus on what the lecturer is saying. So this is basically a rundown of the entire listening part of Ielts. Section A, 10 questions. Section B, 10 questions. Section C, 10 questions. And section D, 10 questions, making it 40 questions. So normally in section A, is further divided into two. So you listen to the you kind of answer the first five first. There's a break before the next five. The same thing in section B and C. But in section D, all the 10 questions all at once. All right. So as it is, section A, B, C, D, it actually gets difficult from one level to the other. So it means section A is easier than section B. Section B is easier than section C, and section C is easier than section D. For me to say it the other way around, it means that section D is harder than section C, section C is harder than section B, and section B is harder than section A. So whatever you want to call it, whether I want to call it easier or harder, but as it increases, as it increases, the difficulty level also increases. See me speaking without even looking at my slide. Let's follow this slide. So while listening, you have to answer 10 questions on each section. I think I've said that already, which is a total of 40 questions. Now, the questions and the answers could either be multiple choices, multiple choices where you have to choose A, B, C, D and all that, or short answers, or where you have to fill in the gap in a sentence, or where you have to label a diagram or a table completion, or matching. We all know matching. Our children did matching in school, where there is so where there is like an apple one side, then they'll not write the word apple. You now have to draw a line from the apple to apple, then book to book, stuff like that. So the answers to each questions follow an order. What does that mean? After listening to an audio, right, you're going to see question 1 to 5. The answer to question 1 will be heard, will be spoken before the answer to question 2. So these are part of the places where it becomes tricky. You have to really listen, avoid traveling or your mind, avoid distraction, avoid people moving around. You have to focus. Because if you fail to hear question 1, it has the capacity to make you fail question 1 to question 5. All right. And they are usually very tricky. We're going to talk about all the tricks of the listening here today. But let me just say this quickly so you'll understand what I'm saying. So they'll give you time to look at the questions before you listen to the audio. So let's say question 1 says, what is the color? Question 2 says, where did it happen? Question 3 says, how did she handle it? Okay, let me just stop there so we don't have to cram too much. Question 1, what's the color? Question 2, where did it happen? Question 3, how did she handle it? Now you're now listening. You now hear something like, oh my God, everywhere was just bloody. The park looks bloody, you know. They are done answering question 1. You're still there waiting for somebody to tell you blue, red, or pink. They've mentioned the answer. The place is bloody, means red. So if you're still there waiting to hear a color, they are done with question 1. They have gone to question 2 to say it all happened in the park, or it was a play area. Sometimes I can use synonyms. We're going to get to that. I'm just trying to explain some things. Okay, so you're still waiting for color. Meanwhile, they have entered number 2. While you're still waiting for color, they have left number 2 by telling you it's in the park or a play area. They've gone to number 3, and you are still busy waiting to hear a color. Before you know it, bam, number 1 to number 5 is over. So that is why when people fail IELTS, they fail well. They fail well, like it's a complete failure, right? But when you get it right, you get it right well as well. So the answers follow accordingly. Your eye has to be on question 1, and your ear will have to be listening to get the answer. Once you get the answer, write it, and your eye moves to question 2. As your eye is in question 2, you're listening attentively to get the answer for number 2. You write it and move to question 3. And move to question 3 like that. So you will first be told what the audio is about. Then they'll give you time to go through the question before the audio will begin to play. So for example, they'll tell you the next voice you're going to hear is a voice of a conversation between a lady, whatever, that lost her purse in a train station, blah, 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 blah. They will shall give you brief. Then after they give you the brief, they will just give you a little time to go through the questions. So you already have in your mind the kind of audio you're going to be listening to or looking out for. Or how do they speak the English? Listening out for, whatever. So you have to listen carefully and avoid any form of distraction at all costs, both physical distraction present at your center or mind distraction present in your mind. Do not let anything distract you, because one distraction can cost you the entire questions in that whole section, and you don't want that to answer. You don't want that to happen. So the answer to each question will be in the voice recording that you're going to be listening to. Then audio will play once, only once. There's nothing like, please, ma, can you play it again? Once it plays once, if you do not catch it, sorry, life goes on and you continue like that. Okay, so it plays only once, then it continues. So there is also an additional time at the end of the test for you to write your final answers on the answer sheet. Now, this applies to only those that are doing the paper-based. So the listening itself is 30 minutes. If you see here, I wrote it's about 32 to 40 minutes, and I'm going to explain that. The listening itself is 30 minutes. Those doing the computer-based, you have 2 minutes to go through your answers. Those doing the paper-based, you have 10 minutes to write your question in your answer sheet. I'll say that again. Listening, the total listening is 30 minutes. Those doing computer-based tests that you're using the computer to do your own IELTS, after the question, you have 2 minutes thereabout to go through your answers. But those doing the paper-based tests that are writing with pen and paper, you have 10 minutes to transfer your answers into your answer sheet. So it makes it about 32 to 40 minutes, depending on the test you're doing. So this is just for the first section, which is the listening, okay? So the listening module is the same, whether you're doing IELTS General or you're doing IELTS Academic. So basically, the listening tests your ability to follow a talk, to follow a dialogue, to follow a conversation, and to be able to pinpoint specific information in that conversation or whatever it is. Now, let's proceed. You have to be mindful of your spellings. If you use a wrong spelling, you have failed the entire question. All right? Wrong in as much as you're trying to spell table and you wrote T-A-B-L, you did not put E, then no, it's table you're trying to write, but you have failed it. So you have to be mindful of your spellings. Also be mindful of instructions. For example, they say, answer the question with not more than 2 words or with just 1 word. And you heard very clearly that they said, how did she feel? And they said, she felt okay. But the instruction says 2 words or 1 word. You now, because you heard she felt okay. She felt okay is 3 words. But because you did not read instruction, you just, she felt okay. In as much as you were right with what you heard, you will fail it because you did not follow instruction. So if they say 1 word and the question is, how did she feel? The answer is okay, right? So don't be tempted to write she felt okay because that's what the audio said. The instruction said 1 word, 2 words, or 3 words. Whatever they say is what you're going to use. Also, the other way around, you might hear okay or something, then they now say use 3 words. So you have to put it up in a sentence like that. So be mindful of the instruction, be mindful of the spellings, because an error in any of the above will make you to lose that mark, right? Then be also mindful of the what's it called now? The case you use in writing. Now, if your answer is at the beginning of the sentence, it is expected to be a capital letter because a sentence starts with a capital letter. If your answer is at the middle of a sentence, it is expected that the answer should start in a small letter. But if it is at the middle of the sentence, but it is not, what's it called now? It is not a small letter. What am I saying? But it is a noun, a proper noun. You cannot now start a proper noun with a small letter. You cannot start your name with a small letter because a proper noun you should start with a capital letter. So now a name of a person, animal, place, or thing. So to just avoid this trick completely, because starting with the wrong case will cause you to fail that question. So avoiding this entire trick completely, use capital letter to answer your question. Just use capital letter to answer your question and avoid this particular trick totally and absolutely. All right. So whether you're doing handwritten or you're doing computer-based, just use capital letter because sometimes you're either tense, you're under pressure, you're in a hurry, you want to beat time, you will not even remember when to now be using capital letter, when to be using small letter, and all those things. Just avoid it, use capital letter. All right. So I've already said that the difficulty increases with each part. So the easiest will be the first one. The second one becomes a little bit harder. The third one, then the fourth one is the hardest among the listening. So that I mean that it is the hardest does not mean it is like one high funk chemistry physics question. Oh, Father. It does not now mean that it is like one very serious, difficult thing. It's just that the difficulty level increases. That first one, the conversation between 2 people is usually a walkover, right? But please, not because it is now easy. That's the opportunity to have marks. If you now fail the one that is easy, what will now happen to the one that is a bit difficult? So do not still get distracted in section A or B. Be careful to answer them correctly. So there are basically 5 accents you're going to hear. Me, in my own time, I thought one of those accents was Chinese. One of them sounded like Chinese. I don't know which one it was, but it's basically British, American, Australian, Canadian, and New Zealand accents. So you have to be using YouTube to begin to get used to some of these accents. Now, why am I making emphasis on the accents? It's because of their pronunciations. Some of them, they're R, I, R, especially like that radio conversation. They'll say, a lady will say her name and they'll say, please can you help me spell that? They'll not say A-R-R-R. You not be wondering what are they saying now? R, I mean I-R. So you have to be mindful of the pronunciations of their alphabet so that you do not get it wrong with that as well. Okay, then there will also be phone numbers. They'll be saying 080 or of course +443 whatever. So numbers, then prices. How much was it? How much did you have in your wallet? I had £5, you have to now use the symbol for pounds. You should know the symbol for pounds, the symbol for dollars, the symbol for euros, and all that. So when they say £5, don't just write, five like that. Either put POUNDS or you put the sign, the symbol. The same thing with dates, all right? Then ordinal numbers like first, second, third. So don't just write one, put the ST, all right? Email addresses, add the @ Can we have your email address, West at gmail.com? So don't go and write AT. They expect you to know that the @ is what the @ is. So you also know your unit of measurement. It is 3 kg. What's the height? The unit of measurement for meters. What was the speed? How long did it take you to get there? Kind of question. It was 100 meters. You have to put the M at the end and all that. Then time also. The bus departs at 1900. What is 1900? Who knows? What's 1900? That's 7, right? So you have to write it 1900. What we call 1900 is their 1900. So you have to write it appropriately. They just expect you to know all this. All right. Now, another very, very serious trick of IELTS is their paraphrasing, rephrasing, using synonyms, and all these, their distractions. All right. Like I said earlier, when the class started, they're asking for the color. Instead of them to say, oh, everywhere was red, they'll not say everywhere was bloody. They can paraphrase. You're the one that needs to understand that, okay, bloody means red, okay? So they use a lot of paraphrasing, using words that are similar in meaning, like red and bloody, like youths and adolescents, things like that. They can really paraphrase stuff, all right? Then we also have the distractions where the main speaker is speaking, like the lecture, the section D lecture. It's the lecturer you should listen to. So the lecturer is saying something that is an answer to a question, but somebody in the background is giving their own opinion and say, excuse me, sir, but this is how it should be. So those other voices are distractions. They are not the people you should listen to. The main speaker is the person you're getting your answer from. So the main speaker can say a thing and someone else says another thing, or refers to even a totally different situation. Remember, before the audio started, they had already told you that this is what this audio is about. A lecturer is teaching about, for example, let me just say, a lecturer is teaching about chemistry. But along the line, they now made reference to something that has to do with politics. You now think the answer should come from politics. No, your answer should come from the chemistry that the lecturer is teaching. So avoid all those small distractions. Be mindful of the paraphrasing. Synonyms, they want to use a word that is close in meaning. The audio may say participants, while the question says contestants or members, peoples. They can use synonyms, words closest in meaning, paraphrasing words similar in meaning and all that. But whatever it is, do not be expecting word for word what you hear to be exactly what is on the paper. Some of them are, they're using words, they're playing around with words for them to just get you. So you see, at the end of the day, it's not really about like English, can you speak English kind of thing. No, they are using your head. So just know their tricks. And if you know their tricks, you're going to pass. You're going to pass, okay? Then sometimes they'll use a false start, starting a conversation and it does not finish. They'll just hang it there. And you'll now be expecting that something more is coming. So this is, I said I was going to finish this class in 30 minutes, and this 30 minutes. So this is basically what you should look out for in the listening. Okay, now this is what a typical question for the section A looks like, right? So now the first question there is the vehicle for sale. Somebody wants to sell their vehicle. Is a 2012 Toyota sedan. So now what's the vehicle color? It will be said in the voice notes. Don't always look out for color. It's the color of the sky. We know that that's blue or white, whatever. So you should flow with whatever trick they are using. Now, looking at this question now, it looks like this is quite easy. Vehicle color. Who knows answer vehicle color? Condition of vehicle. Does it have a scratch? Does it have a dent? Those things are things you can hear. But you might not hear scratch. You might not hear dents. You might hear something like, yesterday there was a little accident. So beside the car, if there's a press by the side, you know that that's a dent. You understand? So they will just keep tricking you, tricking you, tricking you. So now your eye has to be on that question one. By vehicle color is question one. Once you've gotten the answer to question one, take your eyes off there and start looking at question two and wait to hear anything related. So you're not just listening with your ears, you're listening with your mind. Like you have to focus to understand the conversation so that you can give the right answer. If you're still waiting for answer number two, and you did not hear it, they have said number three, they have said number four, they have said number five, back and you have failed all of them. But this section one, like I said, is usually the easiest. The questions are usually easy, but do not be carried away with how easy it is and now forget your spellings, forget your punctuations, or starting with capital letter. Just use all caps. All those small things now will now make you to fail this thing that is very easy like this. I don't know if we're understanding what I'm saying. So this is like typically what the question looks like. And this is another question that has multiple answers. So which option is not part of keeping the kitchen clean? So there's a discussion about keeping the kitchen clean. You hear people having discussions here and there, and they gave options, head covers, hand wash. This is not for you to use your head to say which one is not part of keeping the kitchen clean. No, do not be tempted to use your head. Okay, I've looked at it. Head covers, of course, now I have to cover a wash hand. I have to wash hand, touching counter surfaces. By the time you are trying to use your head, they don't answer question, go. So don't use your head, because three of them, if you check it, is part of keeping the kitchen clean. So don't say, okay, this one, let me just leave audio and try to use my sense and answer. Don't use your sense. The answer is in the audio. The answer is in the audio. Listen to what they have given you and put it there. And remember distractions. So your main speaker might say, for me, I feel touching counter surfaces should be something. And somebody say, oh, no. What if you have a wife that doesn't like to cover her hair? That guy that's talking about hair their witches are wizards. Buy them, their distraction. Please stick to the main speaker, right? Speak to the main speaker and listen to that person and that person alone. So these are basically what the question looks like. Now, this one is just an open-ended question for you to choose from the answers from the voice notes. Then I'm trying to look for then this is the diagram. Usually the section D, the diagram, they'll just give you all manner of diagrams and your eye is supposed to be on the numbers for you to understand what these things mean. So the answers to these things are in the audio. Don't worry whether it looks complicated, it looks scary. The answers are there for you to get them out, okay? Listening is actually very sweet. I think I scored an 8 in listening. No, my highest was in speaking. I scored an 8 in speaking, then a 7.5 in listening. So it's usually very, very, very nice. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Just break that mindset that, these things are difficult. They are not difficult, okay? So go through the video again. I'm recording, and after the class, maybe I'll post it on the general group so that we can keep watching it and watching it again. So next class, which might not even be on Tuesday. I think there are some people that want to take the test this month. So I have to look for another time so I can do this thing sharp. There's no big deal in this Ielts. There's no big deal, sincerely speaking. So we can finish it in 2 weeks. So I can try to do 2 times a week so that by next week we are done, so that I can go and take your Ielts, right? There's no time anymore for us. Any question? I think I can stop recording now so that the recording doesn't get too long. So I will take questions now if you have any.